She got a bunch of people in the media trying to advocate for her and do all of this stuff. When the bottom line is, I kind of feel like you put yourself in this situation. You know what I mean? Like, you got to understand what leverage you do have versus what leverage you don't have. And I think Natasha Cloud really, really, really overplayed her hand. Okay, I think she really overplayed her hand, and it just did not work out. And now she's on the outside looking in, and she might not.
That reaction says a lot about what's going on in WNBA free agency right now. Sophie Cunningham had to backtrack on what she said about her Indiana Fever contract after fans strongly pushed back, but her explanation may have revealed even more than her original comment. When you look at her situation alongside what's happening with Natasha Cloud, it starts to show a pattern that's making players across the league rethink what they're really worth.
What she was saying about her contract situation with the Indiana Fever, and this is what she said. I'm not even going to lie. It's a little kind of frustrating, okay? She said her contract situation with the Indiana Fever was frustrating. She was hoping to get more, but due to her injury, not being able to get in front of teams and all of this stuff, it kind of limited what she was able to get and what she was able to do.
So here's what Sophie said that caused all the drama. On her podcast, she called her contract with the Fever frustrating and said she was hoping to get more. Normally, that's a pretty standard thing for a pro athlete to say, but she's playing with Caitlin Clark on one of the most watched teams in women's basketball, so everything she says gets picked apart online. The backlash came fast, with many Fever fans feeling disrespected. From their point of view, she's getting huge exposure, brand deals like Arby's, and a growing podcast audience because she's on Clark's team, yet she's still complaining about her contract, which led to a flood of negative reactions in her comments.
And Sophie Cunningham issued a response here, where she said, I'm going to shut this down right now. I'm not mad about the money. I just wanted more years because I love it here. Now, I do remember Sophie Cunningham saying on her podcast months and months and months ago during the offseason that she did want to sign a long-term contract, okay? She definitely said she wanted to sign a long-term contract and she wanted to get a house and all that good stuff. She said, I just wanted more years because I love it here. I wanted to get a house so I could bring my dog and donkey to Indiana with me. That's it. That's the truth. I think we have something very special here in Indiana. So Sophie Cunningham letting it be known, hey, it's not about the money. I just wish I had more guaranteed years here because
here's how Sophie tried to clear things up. She went on Twitter and said she's not upset about the money, she just wanted a longer contract, not a bigger paycheck. She said she was looking for stability in Indiana so she could settle down, buy a house, and even bring her dog and donkey, which honestly makes the whole situation feel more human. The interesting part is she had already said during the offseason that she wanted a long-term deal and to put down roots somewhere. But her injury history hurt her chances, and teams weren't ready to offer multiple years to a role player coming off injuries, even if she's playing alongside the league's biggest star. So she ended up with a one-year deal and is now trying to show that she's okay with it.
I want to hear what he had to say about this Natasha Cloud situation, because it's definitely crazy. The girl training camp started for everybody. She don't have no job still. She was a starter for the New York Liberty last year. Now she's jobless. Let's take a listen.
We understand basic economics. We understand business models.
That was one of the esteemed deacons at Woke United Methodist and former woke welfare collector in the WNBA, Natasha Cloud. And
now compare Sophie's situation to Natasha Cloud's, and things get even more interesting. Natasha Cloud was a starter for the New York Liberty last season and played real minutes on a championship-level team. But now, as training camps open across the WNBA, she's without a team entirely. That means a player who was starting just months ago hasn't been able to land even a minimum contract or a training camp invite anywhere in the league. The reaction around her situation has also been pretty harsh, with a lot of debate and criticism circulating about why she's currently out of a job.
We understand basic economics. We understand business models.
That was one of the esteemed deacons at Woke United Methodist and former woke welfare collector in the WNBA, Natasha Cloud. And I say former woke welfare collector for a reason, because Natasha Cloud is currently unemployed. As you just heard in the clip, Natasha Cloud claims to have a firm understanding of business. Over the last 12-18 months, Tasha was one of the leading voices in the fight to get WNBA players money that they claim they have earned, or as the IRS prefers to call it, a donation, for reasons unknown.
This breakdown is harsh, but it's raising a question a lot of people are quietly asking: did Natasha Cloud overestimate her market value? The timeline here matters. Over the last 18 months, she was one of the more vocal players talking about higher pay in the WNBA, repeatedly emphasizing knowing her worth and understanding the business side of the league. She also spoke out against ownership and wasn't shy about calling out fans over political disagreements. That kind of voice is usually fine when your performance is undeniable. Star players like Brianna Stewart or Aya Wilson can say almost anything because their on-court production backs it up. But Natasha averaged 9.1 points and 4.2 assists last season, solid role player numbers, not superstar output. So when she entered free agency expecting a strong market, the reality seems to have been very different, with interest largely not materializing.
It's worth millions of dollars. But there's just one problem, one tiny problem. Every team in the WNBA believes Natasha Cloud is financially worthless.
Oh, damn.
I have been telling you guys.
Yo, man, this dude be going off. He be going off. He be going off, bruh.
For years. There will come a point when the sympathy money runs out. There always comes a point when you will be expected to perform. You'll be expected to produce something of value. You'll be expected to produce something besides toxic ass gas. And you will be faced with one of two options. You either step up or you step aside. Or in the case of Natasha Cloud.
Here's where the conversation gets a bit uncomfortable. Some commentary is suggesting Natasha Cloud's activism and political positions may have affected how teams view her market value. Over time, she supported progressive candidates, missed league-related events to lobby for gun control, and made social media posts accusing Caitlin Clark fans of racism.
For some reason, WNBA players, they've always seemed to struggle with the concept of value. There is this belief that is prevalent in the WNBA that players should be paid millions of dollars because they pretend to play basketball professionally, when the reality is very few, and I mean very, very few in the WNBA are worth the millions of dollars that they are currently being paid. For years now, Natasha Cloud has had the mouth of a superstar and the production of a role player. According to Natasha Cloud, America is trash. I am so sad.
See, this is
the reality check hitting the whole league right now. With bigger investment comes bigger expectations. The WNBA is landing major media deals, expansion teams are paying huge entry fees, and sponsors are pouring in, especially with the attention around Caitlin Clark. But that kind of growth also changes the pressure on players and teams.
You're going to have to relax some. You're just going to have to relax some. You're not Nafisa Collier. Nafisa Collier could get away with calling out Kathy Engelbert the way she did. You're not her. You know what I mean? I just feel like you overplayed your hand, and now you're on the outside looking in, hoping to get a job. I mean...
Natasha Cloud is proud to be a brigadier general in the woke army leading the fight against mythical racism. She has accused fans of Caitlin Clark of being racist. Last summer, she campaigned for Zorro Mamdani to be the lead destroyer of New York City. At the time, Natasha Cloud was
leveraging this new WNBA era really comes down to one thing: how replaceable you are relative to the attention and production you bring. Sophie Cunningham has some leverage because she plays next to Caitlin Clark, which boosts everything around her: visibility, podcast growth, sponsorships, media exposure. But that leverage is indirect. She's benefiting from the spotlight, not creating it. So while she has more attention than a typical role player, teams still see her primarily as a supporting piece rather than a franchise driver.
Minimum wage. When there is minimal investment, there's also minimal expectations. But now, with WNBA players making millions of dollars, the expectations have drastically increased. There is real investment in this dump of a league. And Natasha Cloud is finding out the hard way that she is no longer wanted.
Damn. Hey, man, he got his stance. I'm just saying. Natasha Cloud, you may have overplayed your hand because you are still on the outside looking in. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think about all this stuff.
The bigger picture here is that the WNBA's rapid growth is starting to create a clear two-level system. The top stars are benefiting the most, players like Caitlin Clark, whose rookie contract is massively boosted by endorsements, and Aya Wilson, who recently signed one of the richest deals in league history. These elite players are driving ratings, attendance, and merchandise sales, so their value keeps rising. But for everyone else, the reality is much tougher. If a player isn't a major draw or putting up elite production, Their market value is much more limited because roster spots and salary cap space are tight. Teams tend to prioritize either high-impact performers or dependable role players who fully accept their role without controversy. That's where Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Cloud are often contrasted. Sophie seems to have leaned into her situation, using the visibility from playing alongside Caitlin Clark to grow her media presence and brand, even if her contract is short-term. Natasha, on the other hand, appears to have taken a more principled stance on her value and expectations, but that hasn't translated into a contract so far. The result is a broader lesson the league is quietly reinforcing: knowing your market value and adapting to it matters more than ever. Star players will always get paid, but for everyone else, navigating the balance between leverage, role, and opportunity has become much more delicate in this new WNBA landscape.